Hey, how are you? Long time no see. Everybody ready? Everybody got their stuff up here? Great. Good afternoon, and thanks for being here. Appreciate everybody taking the time. What an exciting day it is, obviously, for us as a program to add a number of student athletes to our football program. But before I jump into that, I just want to talk a little bit briefly about kind of where we've been since the last time we all got together. We've just been playing golf on a simulator. It's been really laid back. It's been great. It's been just an absolutely terrific, last couple of months. It's a little bit of a blur to think that I've kind of been in the role now for 2 months with all that we've been able to accomplish. But, obviously putting a staff together, that process started in earnest after we put the early signing class, into the books and onto the roster. And that was a great, exercise for me. The outpouring of interest that I had to be interview and then get to know and then really start to solidify short list by position to make decisions and adding the staff. I really feel like I've added a terrific group of men, husbands, teachers, and coaches. And so that group is, obviously been now working together for quite some time. As you saw, we were able to add John McNulty here today as our quarterback coach. So excited to get John here starting next Tuesday as we get going as a staff back after a little bit of a break here after signing date for some of our coaches to move up here to East Lansing and or to get home and see their families for the first time in a while. But, going back to then kind of adding to the roster, we went into the portal and, during the transfer time. And that was a great way to build our roster. And we were able to add, not only the 15 early enrollees, but then, 30 newcomers through the transfer portal. So, a total of 45, new members to our football team. Those guys have been now, here for a little over, right around a month, working with Coach Welsh and our strength staff. And, we had a team meeting this morning, and I asked everybody to raise their hand who's gained weight. And everybody's hand went up. Who's added strength? Everybody's hand went up. So, that has been a great group to add. So winter conditioning, winter workouts are in full force, and that will obviously continue all the way through spring break. And then we'll come back for a week, kind of go through a little bit of an acclimatization period that week before we go into the 5 weeks of spring practice. So, obviously a ton of team building going on right now, a ton of relationship building, but with that, going back to what I started with, with signing day to add Samson Gash today to the football program is a huge win. Really proud of the job that our personnel staff did. Obviously, Courtney Hawkins, a great Spartan dog, that relationship that he built with the Gash family for a number of years. And, I think our lead recruiter and Caleb, his older brother, really helped to say the least. But to add the top receiver in the state, you could argue one of the top wide receivers in the country here, along with some young men that are going to be priority walk-ons, for us, was a great first Wednesday in February. I'm old enough to remember when the class was announced today, and I went over each guy, kind of bio by bio, and then through when all of a sudden Twitter announced it before. Now it's X, so we've gone through the whole gamut. I'm not going to belabor everybody individually, but excited to have this group join our football program. And obviously we've got a lot of work to do between now and spring ball, but that's happening in earnest. So again, like I said earlier, appreciate everybody being here and love to answer every and all questions that you may have for me.
How you doing? I'm wondering, seeing you at basketball games and with Alessio Milivojevic with you at a number of them, I'm wondering how much the relationship between you two is built. Obviously, both Chicago area guys and all those connections, but in terms of maybe building this roster and this process over the past few weeks, how has that developed?
Yeah, for sure with our players that, the 54 guys that, stayed with us. Alessio was there almost at every meal that we had when we were in the portal. And for him to come back home here to East Lansing a couple of weeks early from his home in Chicago, and to be a part of that. And there were Jordan Hall, there were plenty of other players, but Alessio almost seemed like he was one of two things. He was really committed or really smart, or a combination of both. He knew he could get free meals. So, he was there for almost all of them. But no, he cared. I mean, he really cared about who we were adding and being a part of that. And I think that's why, he's so beloved within the locker room, just to see his care and his concern for the people that we're bringing in. So it's been great to build relationships not only with him, but the rest of the guys too. And that, has been more so kind of spot here and there as we've been on the road. And that will really kick in big time next Tuesday for our coaching staff as we're now off the road, kind of into building OD special teams installation and playbook things. So we've got a lot to do, but not a lot of time to do it. But Alessio has been great along with his teammates.
Pat, you've done a lot of team building in your career. It's kind of your forte. Is there something about doing it at a new place for the first time that makes it especially not only challenging, but maybe fun? Yeah. Can I use that word?
Oh, it's absolutely fun, for sure, 100%. And we're using Wednesdays kind of for an opportunity for us to talk and educate our guys about what our values are, how we want to define those, what our expectations are around those values. We're kind of through 3 of the 10 right now. And Joel Welsh, our head strength coach, is leading those talks on Wednesdays and really just trying to instill what we want and how we want it done within the guys here in this first phase of building this team. And I believe it's gone very, very well to this point. How do I feel that way? We kind of give them an exit ticket as they're leaving the meeting, like going through, and they've got to evaluate what we're talking about, what they've learned, what they've heard, and it's resonating with the guys. And then to watch the way that we're working out, when we're talking about attitude, we're talking about investment. We got through trust today, to see just the guys, and I'm sitting in the front, and Coach and I obviously put those together. But I don't want to become Charlie Brown's teacher. I don't want the guys always to hear from me. I want to be able to spread that out throughout the staff, and Coach Welsh is handling that here in phase 1.
How much have you felt the momentum here in the first month or so, 6 weeks? Do you feel it around the state, both in recruiting and energy around your program? How noticeable has it been for you?
It's been great to get around the state in recruiting. I've alluded to it now numerous times, and hopefully now the high school coaches see we're backing it up. We're going to start and end our recruiting in the state of Michigan. Sampson obviously is a huge piece of that puzzle today. There were obviously other guys that we signed in December. Our focus with our priority walk-ons here in the state of Michigan that we've added. I think we're walking the talk, and that's what I think is most important. But from a momentum standpoint, 100%. The high school coaches were excited to see not only myself, but our coaching staff throughout the state in kind of the 2-ish weeks that we were able to get out after the portal. Hopefully, I do anticipate that the portal will be something moving forward. How exactly we've got to use that. Number one, we're going to build our program through high school recruiting. And then obviously we'll have some areas that each year we'll have to plug in with some older players through the portal. But that's our plan as we start things off.
Pat, following up on that, with Gash and all the 27s that you've been entertaining and talking to, what's the number one question you've gotten, the number one hurdle you've had to clear, and how have you done that?
I don't think there's been a hurdle, frankly. I think it's just maybe a little bit more just building relationships with the coaches in the state. I would obviously come to the state of Michigan when I was at my previous institution. It might be for a day. I think I spent 4 or 5 days here. Through that 2-week period, give or take, maybe not a full day, but wrapping up some things. I think I got 1 day weathered out where I was going to go to some high schools, and then because of the weather and the schools being closed, instead of doing that, going into the buildings, I just called the coaches, which was actually a little bit more efficient of my time, but maybe not as personal, but still had a chance to spend that. So maybe the weather has been the biggest hurdle. Obviously we had a storm go through kind of the middle part of the country that knocked out maybe some of our recruiting visits, so we adjusted. But the relationship building has been started in earnest, and that's, when I was at the high school coaches clinic a few weeks ago, I showed, exactly how we're breaking the state up, and we got out and did that here in the first couple of weeks.
One more thing about Sampson. All the players that you played with, coached the whole time at Northwestern, have you ever had anyone faster in terms of being a state 100-meter champion and someone who's made just like, well, I think I'll go out for track, and then boom?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had anybody that fast, no. I've had some pretty fast guys, but, Sampson obviously is one of the fastest. He's the fastest athlete in this state, but also one of the fastest in the country. So, to add that type of dynamic athleticism is exactly what you know, we're setting out to do with every position. And, you know, Sampson hopefully will be a huge catalyst not only for this year, but then also to make a statement to the great players here in the state of Michigan to stay home. And the great players in the state go to state, right? And that's what our expectation is from my standpoint to our personnel staff and to our coaches, that we want to keep our best players home here in the state of Michigan.
Coach, right here, in your first team meetings, what moments or interactions from the team did you see that you knew that they were going to buy into this program?
Yeah, I think it's more when I've watched them in the weight room and through conditioning, you know, and then I follow up. It was, I think, the first weekend. At some point, I hit a text up to Alessio and to Jordan, like, how's everything going? Basically, a very generic macro level question, and both guys independently, and I'm paraphrasing the responses here, but it was great getting to know the new guys, ... They're awesome. Workouts are hard. I think I gave him like a thumbs up emoji. That's exactly how I felt. Like that's by design. The focus, the attention to detail, the urgency, the discipline that we're going through our workouts. You know, as I've been able to be off the road and jump into a few of them, I've asked some of the guys, are you spraying water on yourself or are you really sweating that bad? Right? So they've been working really hard. I'm proud of them for that.
In the back here, with Max Bulla joining the staff, what went into that and what has he meant so far to this group? Obviously, he played here and had a lot of success as well.
Yeah, you know, first of all, getting to know Max through kind of the evaluation process when I was putting the staff together, you could sense very quickly his pride beyond the double bicep for the Spartan football program, the state of Michigan, his time here, and what he wanted to bring back, and that was toughness. And we put a little snippet out there to show in my first team meeting, I wanted the last person for the team to hear was Max. And I told him I gave him 90 seconds. I think he went 15 minutes. So I learned a little bit about Max. So we're going to have to allocate a little bit more time for him. But it was very evident, you know, his love, his care, his passion for Michigan State football. And what has he added? I think he's added that wealth of knowledge of what it means to be a Spartan. His relationships, obviously, with where he's from and the regions here in the state and relationships that he has. And then, you know, the great development of linebackers that he's had in a short time, you know, at Notre Dame, I think speaks for itself.
Pat, right here, I got a couple things for you, if you don't mind. With the Sampson recruitment, like, you came in that first group of high school kids, there was kind of, most of them were already set. It was more about, like, stay or go. Like, you just didn't have a lot of time there. With Sampson, you did have a longer window to sort of see your staff operate, you know, mechanically a recruitment like that. I'm wondering what you observed from all levels to sort of get this done over a couple months, whereas those first group of guys, it was kind of like, hey, how you doing? You coming or not? You know, when you had more time to see your staff handle recruitment, what'd you notice?
I think it was a little bit more. Well, I'm not going to like do one of these for myself, but there was a couple nights that the cell phone fell on my face with that class. And again, I alluded to it, you know, I think early on, but I want to thank Coach Smith. I mean, he put together a great group, and the coaching staff put together a really good group of young men. We were able to keep most of them together, and that was our personnel department. And then, you know, getting everything organized so I could, you know, visit with those young men, visit with their families, share the vision that I had for the program. And then they had to take a leap of faith that, you know, maybe I didn't have all the coaches in place, but this is who I'm going to bring in. This is my plan, and I'm very thankful for them and their families to buy into it. And that was kind of the same thing with Sampson and his family. There was a little bit of a thought, and again, I don't want to speak for him, but you know, they were talking about potentially signing early, and they were not sure about where things were at here, even though he was committed. And I just said, then why don't we hit pause? Why don't we hit pause on you guys committing and signing, excuse me, and when we build this relationship and take some time. And that's exactly what we did. So we executed a game plan of, first of all, putting the staff together, then letting that staff, obviously, you know, with Coach Hawk staying, that helped a lot. But then once Coach Sheridan got on board, and then the rest of our offensive staff, Brian Gasser is our GM, and myself, we kind of just put together a plan of building that relationship as quickly as we could with Sampson and his family. One day we sent a number of people, including me, to his house and had a great home visit. And Coach Sheridan was off the road, but he was in the room. It was like a robo meeting, so he was on Zoom. So we had a number of coaches, and we were able to kind of share our vision for him with our offense and where we were going offensively. and then just kind of worked through it day by day until they were on campus last week. And Spartan Nation was great, and I appreciate them. They were phenomenal, and definitely made him feel, wanted from our fan base, and that was pretty cool. I've never experienced that either, so I think we shared that moment together, which was pretty neat.
Also wanted to ask you about John McNulty. You mentioned earlier what made him the pick for you, and
Yeah.
when you went with Mike, did you know there was at least was there a door crack that maybe this could happen?
No.
That he could leave, or was
Yeah,
it
no,
all-
there was no door. Yeah, absolutely not. No, this kind of happened pretty quickly, and I'm really happy for Jake, and I'm thankful he was on planes, trains, and automobiles all over the country seeing quarterbacks. Flights canceled, flights delayed. I mean, he grinded. And then, Monk obviously getting the job with the Browns. I've known Monk for a long time, and he and Jake have a history there. When he did get the job, I kind of thought to myself when I was on the road, I think I had just gotten off the road, hopefully he doesn't call Jake, and sure enough, he did. But this is a great opportunity, one that I actually encouraged Jake to take. When he called me, I said, we talked about the particulars of the job, and it was the right move for him and for his family. So I'm very thankful for the short amount of time he was here, but also I think set the tone a little bit with our quarterbacks, and now as Nick and I kind of move forward with what we were looking for, we wanted someone with coordinating experience similar to Jake to add to the room offensively, someone with quarterback background experience, obviously that speaks for itself with John McNulty, and then someone that maybe either one of us potentially had a familiarity with, and obviously Nick and John have worked together before. So, interviewed a handful of candidates, had an outpouring, again, of candidates interested, and I'm very thankful for that. But we kind of set our parameters with what we were looking for, and we're able to get that done, relatively quickly, but very thoroughly. And so I feel like we've added a piece, again, of comfort that Nick has that they've worked together in the past. So I'm excited to get John here. He'll be here on Tuesday.
Pat, I guess one of the biggest names that you got added to your staff was LeVar Woods. He'd been at Iowa for eons, basically. What was the process like of getting him here, and how big of an emphasis is special teams going to have on your program?
I'll start at the end. Special teams are going to be integral in our program. It was a huge point of emphasis going back to when I was a player, and then my first job, I was a linebacker coach and special teams coordinator at Idaho. And so I'll be heavily involved in that area. I'll be right there riding shotgun with Coach Wood, so to speak, and his staff that we've put together. The relationship, I think first of all started by, playing against him and then coaching against him. There was a high level of respect for our program and their program at my previous institution. And, then to go through the recruiting process with my son Ryan in the same class as Coach Woods' son. Stacy and I got to know he and Megan, a little bit deeper than just coaching. And then just as this role happened for me, and I identified kind of where I wanted to go, I wanted to go after the best special teams coordinator in the country. And I believe Coach Woods is that. And so I put a phone call in, and it started there, and it kind of went for a couple-week period of interview, then more recruiting. I don't want to speak for Coach Woods, but you're right. He had an unbelievable career at Iowa and a former player there. And we just talked about where he wanted to go in his career, where I thought I could help him with that, and then where I thought he could make a huge difference in our football program. And, that's already started. So just very thankful for him being here, and, look forward to getting that to a place where we're said about our special teams the way we've talked about his special teams at Iowa. Great respect for the job he did there.
Pat, back here. Connor mentioned that we've seen you at a lot of basketball games. I've also seen your wife and kids. What have these past 2 months been like for you and your family, just readjusting to the coaching lifestyle?
Yeah, I never really left it. It was a little bit maybe more low-key for where I was at, but I was still setting up the headphones and taking them down and, helping set up food and things of that nature. Is a little bit of more of a dad than maybe in front of you all, which was a unique sabbatical, I guess I'd say. But it's been amazing for myself and for my family. First of all, to the Spartan Nation, we feel you, we thank you. for the warm welcome. I mean, what has jumped out to me is all the times that I've met new people here in the greater East Lansing community or throughout the country when I've been on the road, and the Spartan Nation is across the country. I'll be in a high school and there'll be someone who works at the school and go green, and I'll be like, hey, did you go to Michigan? Did you go to Michigan State? And there'll be a conversation struck. So that's been amazing. Yeah, I kind of like basketball. I kind of like hockey. So I'm going to try to make the women's game tonight if I can. I've got some things I want to get done. And I've got a little bit more flexibility with Stacy and Brendan in Northfield with Brendan playing basketball. So they're pretty busy. But it's been great. It's been a lot of fun. My boys have loved it. They've had a blast. When I was, we had an awesome day when Brendan came up for our junior day, and my son Jack came with Stacy. So I had 2 of my 3 boys here, and we did basketball in the morning, went to a hockey game at night. Jack may or may not have gone to the SAE house late night and hung out with some friends. So, yeah, I mean, life was good for the Fitz boys. So good for them. Dad's grinding, they're playing. So good for them.
Tom Izzo's had a long-standing mantra, more than 5-star players. Give me guys that are dying to be here. Now, that can be deceptive. I was dying to go a lot of places, but I couldn't play. But how much of this dying to be a Spartan is a part of your philosophy in shaping this program?
For sure. Yeah, we want guys that want to be here, number one. Coach also gave me a great line when I was just talking about, as this landscape has changed, how have you gone about, really staying true to what you believe in? And, he calls them OKGs, our kind of guys. And, I shared that with our staff. And, here's what I'm looking for in OKGs. Guys that fit what we value, guys that love football, don't like football, love football, everything about it. Guys that want to be great teammates. Obviously, they have to be proficient at their position and what we believe they need to have athleticism-wise and talent-wise and whatnot by their position to help us win a championship and build a championship program. But just really who they are as people and what that dynamic looks like around them for when things get hard. And so our OKGs are still in the process, but, we've got the 54 that chose to stay and the way they've been working, and then the 45 that are currently here. I think they're our OKGs, so we're fired up about them.
You have a spring calendar yet, or is it still too early?
Spring
Calendar, like when you start and
spring practice?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're going to start. There's this holiday called St. Patrick's Day, so I figured it'd be a great holiday to start. So, so we'll start March 17th, and we'll basically go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for the next 5 weeks.
Finish. You don't know about the last day yet. Will you do a spring game type thing, or don't you know yet?
Yeah, my thought is we'll maybe do a little bit more of a fan fest, here in year one. We need all 15 practices for install and for things of that nature, but we'll have more information to come out on that. I hope I didn't steal anybody's thunder or get myself in trouble with that. But yeah, we want to give back to our fans. And so, but I also need to make sure I'm doing what I think is best for the team with what we need, especially here in year one.
Pat, I got 2 questions for you, if that's okay. First, how well do you know Dan Campbell? Because I saw at that game on what was it, Friday, you brought Samson over, and it looked like you guys have a bit of rapport.
Yeah, I've known Dan. We've chatted a little bit. I obviously have never worked with him. I've got great respect for the job the coach has done. One of my former staff members was with him last year, and now I believe he's added Mikey Kafka. He's added Mike to his staff, which obviously I've recruited Mike as his area recruiting coach. I then was his head coach, and I'm very close with Mike. So excited to get him here, hopefully for a few games. But I'll obviously get to know Dan quite a bit as we move forward. And, that toughness, the grit, the mindset, the mentality that he's brought to the Lions is not going to be very different from what the approach will be here.
Interesting. And then I wanted to ask, too, about, you mentioned recruiting in the state of Michigan, but I noticed there were trips back to Chicago where you've been for years. But I wonder how easy is it to go back to, Chicago's a gold mine of talent. There's so many talented players in that area, but the relationships that you've built over 20 years, we could call it, in the past 3 years, especially back in the high school ranks. How much can you lean on those to recruit some of those players?
Yeah, I think like developing players, developing a program, developing recruiting is all about relationships, and I think it's huge. I think it's going to be an area, again, when we leave the state of Michigan, we're going to be in Ohio, we're going to be in Indiana, we're going to be in Pennsylvania, we're going to be in Illinois, focused in Chicago. And the reception was awesome. All those areas. When I was in Cleveland, one of the coaches said to me, "Where you been?" And I said, "I've been playing at high school." He goes, "No." He goes, "Where's the Spartan been?" I go, "I don't know, but we're back." And they were excited to see us. So, when you look back at when this program was where it should be, that's a top 10 football program. Coach D, obviously I studied intimately when I was competing against him, and he built his rosters. It's not going to be too far removed from that model. And obviously we'll go anywhere to get players that fit us and want to be here. But really that's kind of going to be our focus here, especially here in this class. You can see it, but then as we move forward in the future classes to go.
Yeah, I've got a question about Colin Campbell, the offensive lineman from Arizona. I know you said you were going to go over every single player. I understand that. But he was an interesting situation in that Tabaka had not been hired yet. And do you remember much about selling him on sticking with the class and so forth? Was that an interesting one?
Yeah, again, it's sales, but more I think it's just being genuine and being honest and communicating and building a relationship. And I was on the phone. I don't even know the number. More than 5, less than 20. Probably between taking over the job and then him eventually signing with his family, and just talking again about, they had done their research on me, they had done their research on how I had kind of built the program, what we did with offensive linemen, what my plan would be along those lines. And then again, going back to what I alluded to earlier, it was a leap of faith. And, again, kind of a similar conversation. Like, I want you to sign early, but if you can't, then pause, and maybe let's build this relationship kind of similar to what we did with Samson. And I don't want to speak for the big fella and his family, but he obviously signed early, and I'm just thankful for that trust. And he'll be here in the summer, and we'll get going. But to keep a very talented big man, I mean, that's where we're going to have to obviously rebuild a lot of things, is in the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and to keep him committed and then sign was huge, absolutely huge for the class.
You've talked a little bit about special teams and their importance, and also Samson Gash. You watch that guy, you notice a lot of punt returns. Has LeVar Woods noticed that? Has that been talked about?
When he was here on his visit, there was conversations for sure, absolutely, yeah.
LeVar's known for punt returns against Michigan State, so he probably.
We're not going back there. Yeah, right. I was actually there at that game, so I would have punted out of bounds. That's just me.
One more thing about recruiting classes. Obviously, you said that it's going to be a big part of the program and so forth. Nationally, there might be some different strategies on that, and some fans might think that recruiting is a little more disposable maybe than it used to be. You're taking a different tack on that. You're looking for these guys to have a low attrition rate and come in and stay at Michigan State, if I'm reading you right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I believe as I sit here today, I think we've got one senior that was recruited here. I think the rest are transfers. That's no way to build a championship culture, no way to build a championship program. So we are going to be fanatical in building our relationships with our players. We're going to set very high standards, very high expectations, but we are going to be fanatical with building these relationships. And I think if you start that in high school recruiting, when a young man is 15 or 16, you're going to be able to build that culture and have that rock set and that solid foundation of your team. Will there be guys that come in and leave through the portal? Sure. It's the way it goes. It's a new day. So then you've got to be very aggressive. When you have, the number that we had this year, it was about adding competitive depth to the roster to make sure that we have, as I look back, the amount of injury that happened last year and maybe even the year before, we have to have competitive depth. And that was our focus in getting guys out of the portal with production over potential. And almost all of these guys have put it on tape. I mean, varying degrees and levels of degrees of that, but we were able to see what they did, how they did it, against the level of competition that they were competing against, and then being able to project where they may be for the guys that have multiple years, with when we put them into what our development process is, where we think they can be this fall and then the falls in the future, and then the guys that, for maybe had 1 year left, we really wanted to focus on guys that were going to come here to compete to start. And that was kind of how we went about it. So it's not just high school, that's it, that there's a whole plan that goes along with it. But I would prefer not to have it be the numbers that we had this year and have to go get 30 every year. I do not anticipate that. If it does, we'll adjust. But, you know, the portal will be a part of it every year because it's just the nature of the beast now.
Pat, on your right over here, I just wanted to ask, you mentioned him a couple times, and it sounds like there's kind of a pointed effort to have him set the culture with the values days or whatever I think they're called. Of just Joel Welsh and his value as a strength coach and someone who, this is really, he's the one the players are probably spending the most time with right now.
Yeah.
What went into identifying him and his role in sort of building this culture?
Yeah, Joel Welsh is going to be essential. That role is essential in what I've always been a part of. I just believe your strength staff is your secret sauce. It's got to be right. They're going to spend as much time as anyone in our football program with our players. That was a long research project for me when I was putting our staff together. I've got great staff members that have been with me in the past, and I love them dearly. They did a great job at Northwestern for us. I'll let the production speak for itself with how we developed our guys. And I was able to bring two of my staff members with me, Matt Flannery and Darren Bailey. So, you know, there's a piece of that in that secret sauce right now. But, you know, I've just felt during my time in the Big Ten, and this is with the utmost respect that I say this, the strongest team year in and year out that we had to compete against was in Iowa City. And, you know, I reached out to Coach Ferentz, and I dug on Joel, and that's where this started. And then I just started as many people as I could talk to about him and how he runs things and how he does things and how he carries himself. And really what I felt strongly that we needed when I got here from the, like I said earlier, the standards, the expectations, the urgency, the discipline, and then being fanatical. That's where I got this. He was the one that said that to me. What's our plan to get our team where it needs to be? And he goes, we need to build fanatical relationships with our players. And after that, it was the old had me at hello, you know, line. He had me, and I was like, all right. And we just kept going and going and going and going and going and building that. We never worked together in previous experiences. We didn't really have a lot of connections, and we're 3 weeks into it, and so far it's been spectacular. Now, we're all excited about the first month, but now as we move forward, it's going to be key. So he's going to be absolutely essential, along with obviously his staff, everything that we have in that area, nutrition, sports science, mental health, mental skills, all those types of things, athletic training. You know, we have a high-performance team, and that team is being built right now, too, with developing our players. So there's a lot that goes into that, and Coach Welsh is a huge piece of it.
You know, Pat, at least going back to the transfer portal, it seemed almost like there was immediate emphasis or a focus on building in the trenches, at least on the offensive line. The first commit was Ben. Can you speak? Was there a focus or an element where you guys kind of wanted to address that area first?
Yeah, there will always be a focus on the line of scrimmage here, period. Yeah. Oh, no. The Big Ten, to win the Big Ten, you have to win the line of scrimmage. You'll hear me talk a lot about the 6-inch war. When you watch the line of scrimmage from the sideline tape, where is that line of scrimmage going? And it really only has to move about that much for you to know whether or not you're winning the line of scrimmage or not. Now, it's all by schematics that may vary and all that, but we needed, you know, when I first met a lot of the guys, and I wrote it when we had our first staff meeting, what's the first line in our conference? Big. And I wrote it as big as I could up on a dry erase board. So we needed to get bigger. I think Ben answered that bell pretty quickly. And again, put it on tape. He has it on tape. The production, you know, speaks for itself. And, you know, just been really pleased with watching him along with the other guys we had. We did the same thing on the other side of the line of scrimmage. You see, we got longer. We got much longer than maybe we were in the past. And then there's also with some of the guys that have multiple years on that defensive side that we brought in, their development to us is very exciting about where they're going to be, not only this fall, but probably this time next year, you know, where they could potentially be. But the focus, both sides, was to add that, and then also, obviously, on defense to add competitive depth. You know, with 30 guys that we had to bring in to fill the roster out, it wasn't like we need to go get one this or one that. It was more, a little bit more from the depth standpoint, and that was, I think, the right move for what we needed to do for the fall.
Pat, I got two quick things for you, I guess. I'm wondering about the process of retention. You know, we're here talking today about adding guys, but retention could be just as important in some ways. What was that process like since you've been out of it and
Yeah.
coming back to it? You know, there's more agents now, there's more money now, there's different things involved.
Yeah.
Like, what was that like, and what was your message to keep the guys that you wanted to keep?
Maybe it wasn't keep the guys I wanted to keep. Maybe it was like, hi, I'm your new head coach, and here's where we're going. And, you know, I had everybody in the program evaluated, you know, in kind of 5 different areas, and it came out as a kind of a one sheet to me, and I read it to the guys. I said, I'm the new guy, and here's the perception of who you are, not as a person, but, you know, maybe academically or nutrition-wise, strength-wise, things of that nature. And, you know, if that athlete and I didn't feel like it was in the right spot, I just said, listen, I understand that, but here's where we're going. Come on with me, or. And some guys chose or, and that's the world we live in now. And that's okay. I wish them the best of luck, and, you know, I'll be excited for them to hopefully go find the right fit, and that there's nothing wrong with anybody. I gave that option, you know, but I was very clear that where we're going. And, you know, I would love to have everybody stay, but I also understand that that's not the way the world works. So I didn't look at it from like any other way than that way. Like, this is where we're going. You want to be a part of it, great. If you don't, we'll help you in any way that we can. So that was kind of the focus when I first, you know, got on board pretty quickly after a lot of stuff running around. It was like, I need to get with the players. So that was 15 minutes to 30 minutes with guys, individual meetings with everybody on the roster. And then we were able to kind of put together where we thought, if that kind of played out, where we thought guys may stay or may go. Kind of put an early thought process on who we wanted to get to campus as quickly as we could once the portal opened up. And then we enacted that plan. And like I said earlier, Brian Gasser and our personnel department did a phenomenal job. I mean, we signed 30. I think we had about 100 families here. I mean, ballpark. It was awesome. I mean, it was speed dating with a game of musical chairs, all wrapped up into, like, in came one group and then in came another, and it was a lot of fun. It was a blast, and I think we put together a great group, so I'm excited about that.
I did also want to ask you about Charles Brantley. I don't know how much you've gotten to know him yet, but recruiting a guy who's been here before and is now coming back, just wondering what that was like for you.
Yeah, I love Chuck. I got to know him, the smile, he's gregarious, and, you know, that started from Joe Rossi. So, you know, Coach had said that there may be potential that he wanted to come back, and we popped on his tape. We got a picture up in the office of a pretty big play he's made in his history here, as all of our fans know, and I went, that's the guy? Yeah, we'll take him. I love it. So then I got to speaking with him, and yeah, he's a dynamic playmaker. To get him back here as a Spartan, we're excited about it.
Pat, when you talk about staff assembly, you have a high-profile volunteer assistant coach in Tom Izzo. When you bring players in, and besides shaking hands with Dan Campbell or seeing a Gibson or a Garvey across the way, what does it mean that basketball coach like would spend time before a game talking to your guys and do that so shortly before tip-off?
Yeah, Tom Izzo is one of one. There's no one like him in college athletics. And I spoke with, I think I sent him a text the next morning. I think things are going well. Thank you for doing that pregame. And then I got a call like when he was free. Are we getting him or not? Like, the competitive juices are going. So, and then I sent him a text alerting him that we got him, and he was fired up. So, yeah, he's one of one. There's no one else like him in college athletics, and I'm thankful he's one of one for us. I would never categorize him, no offense, as an assistant coach. I'm his assistant, whatever he needs. If he needs me to carry his golf bag, I'll do that. But the way he's opened his arms, his family's opened their arms for Stacy and I, the way the basketball program has opened their arms for our staff has been phenomenal, and we're really thankful for that. And every chance I get when I'm off the road, I'm going to be a part of trying to cheer them on to be successful. And there's nobody else like him in college athletics, and we're thankful that he's a Spartan, and I'm thankful that I'm his colleague.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Go Green. Thank you.